Okay, so we just covered an awareness hack. The next group of hacks that were in the book were called choice hacks. Can you give me an example of one?
Well, once we figure out what we're all about and we make the unconscious conscious and we realize what some of the beliefs are that are driving our motivations and our behaviors, then we basically, once all the information is out on the table, we kind of make some choices about our lives, what we prioritize, what we feel we do well, what gives us anxiety, what excites us, what makes us feel good, what makes us feel bad. And then we make decisions that wind up influencing our relationships, our jobs and stuff.
And an example hack would be?
Well, like the flow hack. And the flow hack is a state of nirvana. It's an idealistic state.
Like getting in the zone.
Yeah, athletes would call it getting in the zone, but you know what? The most common way to experience flow is like driving, which just sounds really weird because, what's driving got to do with total concentration, deep engagement, and oblivion to a lot of the stuff around you, which are some of the elements of flow. You kind of lose sense of time. How many times have you been driving along? Has it ever happened to you where you keep driving and driving and you drive right past your destination, or you miss your turn or you miss your exit because you're kind of in the zone? Now think about if you could replicate that on something that's really productive for you, like writing a book or doing your job, or in sports.
Writing a book's a good example. So, what would be the key variables in order to maximize and get into flow when you're trying to write a book?
Yeah, well, I'm not Tony Robbins, so I'm not going to tell you what makes me go into flow. You have to figure out what's flow do for you and how do you orchestrate that, okay? So I can only tell you about myself for flow. I can't tell you what your flow conditions are. So for me, when I'm writing, I got to make sure the dishes are washed. Or I start thinking about when I'm writing, I got to wash the dishes. Or I got to make sure I go to the bathroom before I start writing because, I got to get up, I got to go to the bathroom. So I stop the deep, intense concentration that makes me most productive. So for you, I don't know, maybe you do well with a full bladder. I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're talking about like one step is getting rid of distractions.
Well, we call it environmental regulation, but it's personalized. It's personalized. Some people, they can work with kids screaming, even though that's contrary to research. Dogs barking, because it takes part of your cognitive horsepower away because you're listening to it. But it's basically knowing yourself and knowing what conditions are conducive to flow. But there's one really big point. Okay, and you can imagine that if you've been in school or even at work and stuff, when you have something that's really easy, you tend to lose engagement, right? It's too easy. You don't have to think about it, you just kind of do it, right? If something's too hard, too challenging, you start worrying that you're not performing properly. So you got a project at work, or you're in your first job and you don't think, well, I'm not really qualified for this job. So you can't get into flow that way. You have to have something that's just a little bit of a stretch above what you're used to doing so you don't get bored and you don't get anxiety because it's too hard.